Okay, so let's say I want to start a blank an array. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it numbers. So I just want to play with some numbers. So I made a blank array. And what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to get an input of a user to put a number into that array. So I'm going to ask them for an integer. I'm going to use the input command. I'm going to give them some feedback about what I want them to do. And that should, as you already know, get the user input of the user. Okay, so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take the number and I'm going to append it to the array. And the command I use to do that is numbers.append, open bracket, name of the variable that I want to assign, numbers. Okay, and then I'm going to print the array just to see if it's worked. Okay, so that's when we run this, we get enter the first number and it prints the first number 1. So as we can see, that array. Okay, so I've got to do the first thing. What I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to get to add more numbers to the array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a for loop because I know I want to add 5 extra users. So I'm going to call these items just so I don't get confused with the names. And I'm going to add items and I'm going to add 5 of them. So my range is 5. I'm going to use the same command I used before because I know that's already worked. So I'm going to copy the input using my pattern recognition to know it's the same thing. I'm just going to change that to next to make sure that it gives the user the right entrance. And then I'm going to append that to the numbers. Okay, because I know the append already works, I'm not going to copy the print section as well. So I'm going to copy the numbers.append. So every time the user inputs something, it will append it to it. And then at the end, after it's gone all the way through the for loop, for each of the numbers I enter, I'm going to print the numbers array. So let's just quickly see how that works. So same thing, let's run it. When I run, I just clear quickly there. I run, enter the first number. I enter my next numbers, and I'm going to just use 1 to 6. And then when I run it, I get the array that I was expecting. Okay, so I've got that. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to add to it so that I can count how many items are in the array as I append the new items to it. So I'm going to print len, same command as before when we were doing about strings. I'm going to print the length of the array. So it should do the first bit of code and then it should add 5 more. So the length I'm looking for by the end is 6. So I'm going to run the code. I'm going to enter myself some numbers. And as you can see, after I enter each number, it's telling me how long the array is. Just to check that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it again, but I'm going to use different numbers. So I'll clear the output display, and this time I'm going to just use 10, 20, 30, because what I want to do is make sure it is actually showing me the length of the array. So I'm adding in the numbers, and as you can see, it's showing me the length of the array after each one I've entered, and then it prints the array at the end. Okay, so let's say I wanted to do something with all the numbers in the array. I'm going to start off by working out the total. So I'm going to set total to 0 at the beginning because I don't want the total to have any number on it. So for each item that is in my array, what I need to do is I need to add it to that total. So I'm going to use a for loop. So it's going to do for each item in the array, I'm going to take my original total and I'm going to make it equal to the total that I started with, which was 0 to start off with, plus whatever item I'm getting from the array. So what that should do is it should go through every single number in the array and it should add it on. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to print the total just to make sure it worked. Run it, enter my totals. The totals of the numbers I'm putting in at the moment should be 21. And the answer there is 21. So I've got the right answer and it does seem to work. Okay, so what I'm actually doing each time is I'm working my way through the list and I'm making sure that the total is just the first number added to the next number, added to the next number as I work my way through the for loop.